Hi guys, and welcome back to this Model Engineers Workshop. I'm the chef. Now we're just looking here at where I've got so far with this build of the Wombat. This is the tender. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but I'm building the 7¼ inch version, which is a popular scale here in Australia. The other one being 5-inch gauge. Wombat is also available in a 5-inch gauge version. The only real difference is with the loco, that being with the 7¼ it has outside Wombat valve gear and the wheels on the outside of the frames. And the 5-inch version still has the outside Wombat valve gear, but with outside cranks and the wheels between the frames. And you can see in this tender so far there are a lot of holes, most of which are now drilled all the way through the supports and brackets and everything and tapped 4mm. That tenderizes your fingertips a bit, but we're getting there. I've just got a few more left to do. They will be mostly down in this bottom plate here. I've got a couple of brackets here and one over this side still to do, and a couple in what is eventually the coal bunker there, which still need no drilling. Today I'm thinking I might just give my fingers a break. This is the water valve. It's got a nice steady thread in there. It's not tightened down fully at the moment, and it needs a little bracket that goes from here to here with a hole in it, just to hold this from rattling and wobbling around. The drawing that is provided for this design says it needs to be made out of 30 by 30 by 2mm steel angle. Well, guess what? Ain't got any of that. Do have a chunk of this stuff. This is bigger than that, and it's 4mm, 4.2 I think I measured it at, which would suggest that it's probably not an imperial size, but not a metric size, but an imperial size, probably somewhere in the region of 5/32 rather than eighth, which would be 3.2. So I need 45mm of that. Then we then need to shorten down the top bit like that. That goes down to 30mm or slightly less, and this needs to be cut down to 20mm. So the plan, I've already started making some markings out, is I need to get this into the power hacksaw, whop a bit off. Got some marking out lines going already in, although I have realised that one side of these are wrong, so I'm probably going to re-blue the whole thing because this is too thick, the back, or whichever, yeah, the back. And I need to take 1mm off, so a couple of these lines will need to move forward so that I can get that to the right width when it's bolted up against that plate, and also get the hole in the right place for the support for that water valve spindle there. Okay, so first part of the operation done. A little bit of that angle line cut off. Get that into the mill now. Start getting the two ends cut up, cleaned up, ready unto length. And then take one of these sides down to 3mm. Do the new marking out, get it re-blued probably, get the marking out done. 3 holes, one big one up here, 2 little ones down there. And then that's another little part off the list. Alrighty, back soon. Okay, so this is the setup I'm going to use in the mill. There's the piece of angle that I've cut off. Nice 20mm HSS end mill, side mill, whatever. There in the mill, in the spindle. Just going to get this cleaned off to length, spin the thing round, and there we are, we're in focus, and then bring it to length from the other end. This end is an existing cut off that piece of angle line, and it wasn't desperately square. Must have been done by hand by me probably many years ago. for some other project. Right, so I'll get the machine going and I'll take some moving pictures. How about that? Alrighty, so it's taken a couple of minutes just to get that excess steel off that little piece of angle there in the vise. I'm all set to take a 0.25 of a millimeter cut off to get this down to final size. So we'll power up the mill and we'll get it going. Right, so I've just measured up after the final cut, and if we can get this thing to focus, there we go. If any of you can actually read a vernier scale, you will be able to see that I am actually spot on, crack on the duck's nuts at 40.00 millimeters. Not a critical part, but if you can work to the dimensions I give you, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that, so I'll get set up for the next bit and bring you back. Right, so I've just taken a measurement on this piece of material now. So from this back edge to this front edge is, there we go. Can we focus? Yes, we can. As you can see, it is 32 mils exactly. I've got to mill this down to a dimension of 20. So from the back edge to here. So I'm going to do that first before I reduce the thickness of this piece, because it'll just make fitting that out probably a little bit less noise. There's less chance of shake and chatter because it'll be a shorter, narrower, stronger little piece of steel. Alrighty, so I'm just about to go and set this up and touch off, and I'll start making some cuts and bring you back when I've got that done. Alrighty, quick change of plan. Just measured, taking a cleaning cut off the 32 mil of these angle iron down now to 31.8 just to tidy things up and get a measurement to work from. So as you can see now, I've put in the 31.8 there on the y-axis of the mill. This will be a little bit easier than doing the ends because that was a lot of hand cranking, because sure enough, there it is, there at the end. Got a y-axis feed or drive, so a longitudinal feed on the y-axis of this mill. So we're going to just take that down to say 31 points. It's a bit too far. About there, 31.3, about half a mil coming off in one go. There we are, that'll do. And we'll start the mill up and we'll take the first cut with a power feed. Right, that's how that's going to go for the next couple of minutes. When I get that down to 20.000, I'll bring you back. Okay, just getting down to making the last cut. 20 mil from back to front to back, whichever way you want to look at it. See the amount of swarf, trusty bottle of cutting fluid, lubricant, cutting whatever you want to call it, cutting liquid most of the time, coolant. Right, so here we go. Last cut, get this down to size. There we go. And the DRO tells me 20. Nicely. That's where it should be. Alrighty, let's clean this off and we'll get ready for the next operation, which is going to be thinning this piece down. Okay. Okay, now set up for the next operation, which, like I said before, we're going to thin down this surface. This measures at 4.15 mil. You can see I've already made contact. I'll set the DRO already, and I've put in the first cut. So we're going to be taking about 0.35 of a millimeter off here on the Z, where it says 3.8. So I'll shut up, get the machine going, and get some coolant on there. Again, going under power feed. Alrighty, just a bit more of that, and then we'll get it down to 3mm thick. And we're done on this side, except for a couple of holes, which we can set up using the DRO and get them drilled. Alrighty. Okay, now we're set up here for the last cut, so a quick up and down on both sides of this, just to get this this side of the angle down to 3mm, and then we can get some holes drilled, and that's just one more hole to drill and the other side to bring to size. Alrighty, here goes. So, there we go. Nice little bit of a tidy up. Come on, focus. Thank you. Reasonable surface. Doesn't need to be that done. A bit of tidying up to be done with a file. But next job will be to change this cutter into an edge finder so we can find this edge, and then we'll be able to just use the DRO. Set this distance, the distance of the first hole, drill that, and then the distance of the second hole, drill that. After that, as I said before, take this piece out, flip it over so that the other side, this bit down here, is across the top. We'll need to put in a different parallel just to keep it nice and high above the vice jaws there, so we don't do any dimples into it, any pecking. And then it's a case of repeat for the edge just to bring it down to the right dimension, and drill I believe it's a 9.6mm hole in here so that little water valve shaft comes through, nicely supported. And once that's done, we can line it up on the shaft and on the front of the tender that I showed you earlier, and get the 2 holes from this side transferred through the stainless plate, 2 4mm bolts and a couple of 4mm lock nuts on the other side, and then that's the water valve in its place. It will need tightening up and plumbing in just yet, but then that's this piece done and the water valve almost finished. Alright, I'll get set up and we'll get on with the next piece. Right, so setting up for the next part of the operation on this little bracket for the water valve. I've just taken this out of the vise, cleaned all the burrs off so it's nice and clean and tidy. Had a bit of a sweep down on top of the vise. As you can see, there's a lot of swarf down in the bottom here. We now have the edge finder. That's this little silver and gold thing here in the bottom. You can see that the bottom half of that moves, so once that is in contact with the side of the vice jaw here, we should hopefully see it kick, and that will then give me the 0 mark for the x-axis. Then I'm going to bring it into between the vice jaws, do the same operation again, run it up against the face on the back jaw, and that will then give us the 0 for that line. Once we've got that done, we then know the exact coordinates of that point there, the very corner. I'm then going to put this back into the vise on its little parallel, which is at the back there, and then we can start using the DRO to measure the distance across here that we need to come, and the distance for the 2 holes that go into the shorter side of the 2 on this angle. Right, so I'll get the machine running and we'll get this done. Won't take long. There we go. Did you see it kick? So now, having done that, I can reset the table back to what will be this very back corner. There we go, on that vice, and we have our 0, 0 in both the X and the Y, and then I can get the little piece of angle back into place. Be back soon. So now I've changed out the edge finder, got the drill chuck nice and firm in the spindle, got the little wavy parallel underneath the workpiece there. Workpiece is just here, just very loosely in. So now what good is 0.0 over there? Right, what we do is we slide that further forward, then using a little engineer's square, which of course has a nice flat bottom on it there, what we do is we position that like that, square across the jaw, and we make sure that this piece is now, we're going to have to just do this very carefully, hopefully we'll focus, to get it to line up with the jaws. You can see I've pushed it too far there, so I'll just have to put you down for a second, come and I'll get this right and I'll tighten it up and be back. Right, back again. Now, as I said, put the square against the edge of the vise here, the vise jaw, lined it up with this piece, pushed it up nice and tight, gave the vise handle a bit of work, tightened up nice, so that piece is now in there solid. What good? Right, well, we knew that that point there, up top the top corner of the vise jaw, was 0.00. We've now put this piece in, and so now we know that this corner is also now 0.00. All right, so when we get the drill, we're going to put a center drill in here. A center drill is a little stubby sort of drill that you use to make a start for the holes, because you're not just going to go straight in with an M4 drill, because that would be skidding all over the place. It needs a little dimple to start in. This is what some people use center punches and then drill by hand or on a drilling machine. I'm doing it on here. So like you're doing a lathe, I'm going to use a center drill, and then once I've got my mark, I can change the center drill out, drill through M4, being very careful that I only just come through, because I don't want to go putting pecks or cuts into the top of this second of the moving vise jaw. Right, so I'll just get everything set up for the first hole, so the right distance from here across and the right distance from this edge in, and we'll get the first hole drilled, and then the second. It won't take long to drill 2 holes. Alrighty, just give me a second to set up and I'll be back. Okay, so now we've got the center drill set up in the drill chuck, the piece is set in the vise correctly, I've got the dimension from the back to where I need to be, and the right distance also from here to there. So this is on the X correct and on the Y correct. So we're going to drop this one in, change out the center drill, drill the hole, move across the right amount, put the center drill back in, center drill pop that one, then put the 4mm drill through. Again, without going through too far, because I don't want to damage the top of the vice jaws there, and we should be sweet. So let's get that center drill spinning, and we'll get this first hole marked up. And there you can see, come on focus, thank you. There you can see the little dimple that I need, just enough to get this fella started, straight through, and then move across. So once I've got those 2 holes in, we'll spin the piece around and put a different size parallel underneath it, because of course this leg is now a lot shorter than the original leg, and we can then use the same 0-0 setup, put the big hole through, which is then the one that the water valve spindle comes through. Alrighty, I'll be back soon once I've got the 2 holes drilled and we're set up for the next one. Alright. Back a bit earlier than expected, but there you go. 2 holes, M4, 4mm, drilled through, and even managed not, repeat, not to put any dents or pecks into the vice jaws. So let's have that out. There we go. There you go. 2 holes all set. Beautiful. Just a bit of deburring to do on the back side here. And then set him up that way, different parallel, so we can get the next big hole drilled, and then we've got to just put the end mill back into the machine, bring this down to the right size. Okay, as I said, back soon when I get that set up. Alright. Right, turned it around, lined it up, 0.00, got the dimension here on the Y, got the dimension here on the X. So we're all set to drill the hole. Got to drill the center drill first. Then I'm going to go through with the 4mm drill. Final size after that is 10mm. Alright, so let's get this going, and it shouldn't take long. I've set it up quite high, as you can see, so that I've got a bit more room to come through here without pecking into the vise. So it doesn't leave me a great deal to hang on to here. I've got maybe 10mm. So I'm just going to take it slow and steady, and we'll take it from there. So I'll get this pipped with the center drill first, and then I'll change over to the 4mm, and then I'll change over again to the 10mm. Alright, let's do this. Now drilling 4mm. Little spot of light there tells me I'm through. Always got to be careful when you're drilling. These things, they tend to helicopter around, and if you're not careful they will snag you. Always keep your hands well clear. Bit of health and safety, even in the home workshop. Still got a job to go to, so I need my hands for that. So, let's have a quick look, quick clean up. That looks alright. All through, you can see, no peck in the vice jaw, so that makes me happy for sure. Right, quick change. I'll get this out of here, get the end mill back in, and we can bring this down. Well, I think we've got to take about 4mm off the end of here just to bring it down to size. Alright, I'll get set up, bring you back. Right, so setup's changed, got the end mill back in. As I said, this front edge here has got to go back by 4mm to bring it to size. After that, this bracket is basically complete. We've got to just round off this corner and this corner to make sure that it's not sharp edges so that anybody can hurt themselves when they're driving the train. But I'll get this touched off and bring you back backwards and forwards a few times with the power on the y-axis. Okay, power feed. Back soon. Okay, see the little mark there under my finger? You can see I've touched off. I'm going to take a cut of 0.6 of a mil. Going to take it nice and slow, as I say. There's not a great deal of angle left there in the vise. Probably only about 10mm. I'd like a little more, but I've got to leave room for the cutter to clear the top of the vise and have a nice fresh bit of end mill to use there. So we'll get this going, and we'll take a nice slow steady power feed cut, and I'll just show you one, then I'll get it down to size and bring you back. Alrighty, a few more times backwards and forwards. I'll do that. No point filming that. You've seen that one before. So bring it back again in a bit. Alright, see you soon. There we are. That was the last cut. That's that piece now to size. Just a couple of corners to round off and some burrs and bits and pieces, to sharp edges to take off. I'll take it out, clean it up, and we'll take another look at it. Okay, here we are back at the front of the tender. There's the part. 3 holes, mill to size. Got to just round these corners off a little bit, just so they're not quite so sharp. This will go about there, once it's lined up of course, and be bolted through the front plate of the what will be the coal bunker. As you can see, this very wobbly at the moment. Once we get this in place, it'll give some more support right up here at the top, give or take about there I suppose, and it will make using the water valve a lot easier. Alrighty, I'll bring you back when I get the corners rounded. We'll get it onto here. I'll have to take this piece out. We can get a line scribed, get this lined up so it's nice and concentric, shaft and the hole, and we'll then get the holes drilled and tapped into it, drilled through, and the bolts put on, and we can then put this into place, only temporarily because of course everything's going to come out to be painted, but one more piece done, just one less to go till the loco's finished. Okay, so now I've rounded off the corners on that little bracket that we've just been machining and drilling. As you can see here at this moment in time, I've got it clamped into place. There's a reason for that. In a second I'll tell you about it. Water handle is now nicely, water valve handle there, it's nicely located, no real wobbling around, quite positive closure on that. The reason why it's got a clamp on it, I've got a little block at the back there just to take up the gaps in underneath the edge of the stainless steel there, is there's a couple of drops of Loctite behind that now, sticking it to the stainless, so hopefully when I take this off, that should have cured by now. Got a few bolts to undo from this, and then we can take this piece out and we'll go over to the drilling machine this time, get it rested on a block of wood so I can drill through, drill a couple of holes, stick in a couple of bolts. I'll take the plastic off and we'll take a look. Right, I'll get this all taken apart and set up on the drilling machine, and I'll be back soon. Okay, so a simple setup this time. Just got to drill through the 2 holes with the 4mm drill, so that won't take too long. No real worries on having to have a dimple or anything, because we're using the holes in the bracket as guides to get us in the right place. As I say, the bracket is Loctited on there, so that's nice and solid as long as it doesn't break free while I'm drilling these holes. I'm going to leave it Loctited on because it's just going to get cleaned and primed and painted eventually anyway, and it'll just doesn't need to be painted underneath there. It's all stainless steel. Stainless steel itself is not too bad to material to machine or drill. You just got to remember to keep the drill or the tool cutting. If it rubs, the stainless will work harden and it'll just make life a lot harder for you. Right, so I'm gonna just have to put you down so I can use 2 hands here. As you can see, I'm resting on the drilling machine table. I don't actually need the block of wood, there's enough room underneath here so I can just go through and hopefully not peck into the table. I'll get these drilled, get the bolts in, and I'll show you the finished results. I'll get the plastic off as well. Okay, give me a couple of minutes and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so there we go. 2 little bolts, 2 nylock nuts on the back, nice and flush so I'm not going to stab anybody when they're riding the loco and trying to get the coal out of the bunker. This piece now will go back into there. Just line it up. There we go. Drops in nicely. I get a couple of bolts in that, and then I'll drop the water valve spindle back through. Put the sealing nut as an O-ring in the top there, you can hopefully see. And then that is this part done. So that is one little part done. one little part less to do and a lot of big parts still to come up. So please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll be getting another video up soon. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It's been great fun doing this first video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next. Alright guys, thanks a lot. Bye for now.